And the purpose of this video is to make viewers aware of with Parkinson's disease and what can happen when this condition changes dramatically with the intake of a nutritional extract. He has limited use of his legs and arms, therefore making him totally dependent on Janet to get in and out of the car, go to the bathroom, go to bed, eat, and so on. When Taylor was living with me 18 months ago, he was able to drive, he was able to walk around, take care of himself. So you can see that the Parkinson's has certainly deteriorated his body and his system. The difference is, for the last 10 days, Taylor has been taking a therapeutic dose of a vegetable extract. And after 15 minutes since his last dose, Taylor is standing, walking, moving on his own. On this particular occasion, it is for 45 minutes. But if he is on this for an extended period of time, he will regain his abilities through the miraculous nature of its neurogenic properties. Taylor now decides he's man enough to drive the car, especially after being fed by Janet. Can he do this? Remember, he's not walked on his own or driven in months. Confidence is now getting the best of him, and he will try. Starting it up, positioning the steering wheel, closing the door, rolling up the window. All of these requires a lot of concentration and effort for someone who normally needs to be helped into a car.
This is an incredible miracle. Unbelievable. There he goes, and we suspect he'll return.
My name's Jan Laval, and I was diagnosed with genetic Parkinson's disease 6 years ago at 45 years old. There's very little studies with cannabis and Parkinson's out there, but that I read about that there's a possibility of it regenerating cellular growth and turning your synapses back on in your endocannabinoid system. So I got really into doing that. I never have been on Western medicine. My mom and my sister both took the Western route. And when I was told that Western medicine does nothing to cure the disease, it only treats masked symptoms. And eventually everybody I've seen that's on these drugs, which is everybody that is diagnosed with Parkinson's, because there really isn't anything else, I see them getting worse. Both my mom and my sister have had brain surgery to put a probe in their brain that stimulates the production of dopamine. It also does nothing to slow or stop the disease. So I kind of was researching for other options. But as far as medication, somebody said you should try CBD. So I started with those under the tongue sprays. There's really not many people 6 years into this disease. In fact, I know nobody that's 6 years into this disease that's not on full medication, Western medication. I don't even want to think about what my life would be if I didn't have this option. In reality, there is no cure for Parkinson's in the Western medicine, and it can be a very depressing diagnosis to hear that you have a progressive neurological disease with no cure. I do feel like the CBD treatment for me has been the most beneficial. I attribute most of my slow progression to taking CBD.
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's 10 years ago. You're looking at it, just gets you awkward movement, being in public, having kids saying I'm on crack. I guess I move too much.
You've had people accuse you of being on crack?
Yeah.
So cannabis was kind of like your last chance?
Resort.
It was your last resort. No other medications were available for you?
No.
You had tried most of them?
90% of them, yes.
And nothing worked?
No. No, there's no medication. I could take it. So, symptoms of Parkinson's.
Okay.
It's working. It's making me feel somewhat normal, making me feel like I can live again.
And what's the first thing you're going to do now that it's changed your life?
I play hockey with my son. I wish I could do that again. I miss that.
Do you think you're going to be able to do it?
I'll have to try.
It's been a bit of a rough week, really. And the best way to take it is put it under your tongue and rub it in your cheek. Don't do too much, you're going to be asleep all afternoon. You know what you should do? No. Don't try to communicate, just relax. See what happens.
We know from animal experiments that the endogenous cannabinoid system is very important in regulating motor activity, that very type of activity that is impaired in Parkinson's disease. From animal experiments, we also know that boosting certain branches of the endocannabinoid system is helpful in relieving symptoms of Parkinson's. Finally, from anecdotal information, we know that certain patients who smoke marijuana experience relief of their symptoms.
He used just a single drop, and his hands afterwards were rock steady, and the dyskinesia left.
A person like me could really use marijuana. It makes me pretty angry that I can't get it in my home state.
We now know that medical marijuana controls dyskinesia, and yet it's not available to us.
My name is David Esparza. I have had Parkinson's for approximately 13 years. I was in really good condition, and at the time I was playing and coaching handball, and I told her I didn't really want to take drugs, that I didn't want to take the medicines, and she told me about trying marijuana in a tea form, and that the tea would be really relaxing, and how that she wasn't sure, but she says you might want to try that. So I tried it. It stopped my shaking. It makes me feel like I'm not shaking that much, and it is noticeable to other people when I do medicate that I am not shaking that much. Now, my stages of Parkinson's has really increased. I'm shaking a lot more when I started 13 years ago. I'm sure my neurologist has never tried any of the medicines that she's prescribed to me. So now the pot helps me in the morning because it gets rid of the nausea, the throwing up feeling, and I'm able to handle those medicines better too. I think it helps me. It gives me a better attitude. I don't feel like a victim. I feel more like, I'm not saying happy, but I do. I feel good about myself. I had medicated myself with marijuana. At the end of telling them the story, they were willing to grow it for me because they saw the big change that it had made in me. As far as the benefits, for me, it helps me with my attitude, helps me with my shaking, helps me deal with my new life of 13 years. It helps me. I don't know what effect it has on other people, but it helps me tremendously. It just gets me in a different attitude. Next thing you know, I find myself in the garden, or I find myself, making a tree house for my son, or I find myself playing with the dogs.